Hello and welcome to episode 1 of the VRSpies Exposed weekly day podcast. And tonight, a little bit low on numbers, but a little bit low on staff. We just have Greg and myself, and we're very greatly having from 34BigThings. We have Giuseppe Enrico Franchi, who is the lead game designer. Who's working on a game called Redout, which we're going to talk about in a little. Looking through the agenda, we're going to be talking a little bit about Mythica VR, which we're very excited about. We're going to talk about some of the people have been talking about Gear VR and the potential of using the new USB port with the Leap Motion. I want to talk a little about a big hero of mine, a guy called Justin Roiland, who is the co-creator of Rick and Morty, who's doing interesting things with VR as well. And I think we're just going to bitch and moan about the low quality of Steam games, Greg, which seems to be a weekly feature. And then, of course, we're always interested to hear what people are talking about in the chat. So I'll be looking at my and reading your questions. So do keep firing them in, monitoring them. So, Greg, your guest this week, would you like to introduce him again?
So yeah, we've got Giuseppe here. You are from 34BigThings, Giuseppe, that's correct?
Yes, that's correct. Hello everyone.
Hello, it's very nice to have you on tonight. Really looking forward to playing Redout. Looks fantastic. So over to yourself. How long have you guys have been working on this? And
we've been working on it for way too long, actually. It's been so long that I actually have a hard time saying when it exactly started. I believe it was 2014, if I'm not mistaken. Yes. It was actually pretty funny. We started prototyping in Unity at a game convention. It was the Torino Comics. It's a local game comics convention here. And in the span of the conference, we just prototyped this anti-gravity racing silly thing, which kind of snowballed from there on. So we got more and more people on board. It was more and more interesting, and now we are. It's 2016. We're still working on it, and we're gonna release next week. Hopefully, we're gonna slay the dragon.
Yeah. So release would be 2nd of September. That's correct?
That is correct.
Yeah. Okay. So this Redout is a sort of fast-paced sci-fi racing game. Yeah, something similar in the genre of F-Zero or maybe Wipeout.
Of course, actually, right in between those two.
And you bring in VR support to this as well, which just came around very, very recently on Steam. I noticed about a week ago that if you looked at the description of the game, it actually mentioned it had VR support, but it wasn't in the VR libraries in Steam. And I noticed today that it's now in the libraries, and you've sort of fully stated that you're going VR with it. So what made you guys think, we want to take the plunge and go for VR, and also what headsets will you be looking to cover with this?
Well, that is a very interesting question. Actually, I think it's an interesting story too, because originally Redout was not supposed to be a VR game. It was nothing like what was that, Radial G, another racing game which was specifically built for VR, for example. Redout was not created at the beginning with VR in mind. But then again, we started, toying around with it, playing around with it in the last years, as every game developer did, basically. We found it really interesting and really fun, so we thought, yeah, might be worth a shot. And then, specifically, the episodes that made us consider VR seriously was a contact from Razer. And their OS VR headset.
Yep.
They basically came to us and said, your game is looking really cool, and how about giving a serious shot VR? And that was, I think, a week and a half before E3, or something like 2 weeks before E3. If you guys pull this off, we're going to show Redout at our booth at E3. So of course the answer is yes. I mean, there's no second thought on that. Like E3, our game at Razer booth, yeah, of course. Like, yeah, send us the dev kit. We're gonna make it work.
Yep.
Actually, we did make it work. It was quite surprisingly smooth, and we just had a couple of jittering and latency problems because we never got really down tweaking the frame rate. So we were actually hunting for the last frame possible until the very end. But it was, I would say, a success. We showcased for the entire E3 at their booth, and the reactions were pretty good. And motion sickness also was surprisingly low, because that was our biggest fear. We didn't really design this for VR. It's gonna be a kick in the teeth players, and they're all gonna feel dizzy and bad. But actually, it's
not really a problem, you say, because this is like a, I don't know how you'd say it, a third-person perspective. Behind the ship, effectively Wipeout style. So you have no cockpit. And the cockpit is traditionally the thing that saves you from the sickness, if you see what I mean.
That is a very curious thing too, because we found out that the cockpit view would actually disturb our testers more than not having the cockpit. And I'm not really sure why is that, but we found out that with our first kind of simulated third-person camera, like right in front of the ship, you can just see your shape, and people could control it way better for some reason and feel less dizzy. We're still investigating that, but for sure we're not going to launch with a cockpit view because of what we saw.
Okay.
Interesting. I suppose in reality, if you're following a ship, it's almost like a bit of a cockpit view in its own right, because you have this sort of fixed point which you're looking at, which obviously stays in your vision and doesn't jump around too much. So
you're totally right.
Interesting.
One thing, actually, if I can jump on this a little more, it was exactly the case when in the conference. There was one day when we didn't have any cockpit view, any HUD, any indicator of any sort, because of the reason I said before. We're trying to have as many frames per second as possible, and we found out that drawing the HUD would actually eat a couple of frames, so we actually decided to scrape it. And that was the day then 2 people actually stopped playing and said, I can't do this. And we understood that you need a reference of where is forward. So you need to know where the forward of your ship is, and that's all that matters, at least for our testers and for ourselves.
Okay. It's interesting. Very interesting.
As Harv has corrected me in chat here, and he's absolutely right. It's not motion sickness because there's no motion involved. It's actually correctly simulation sickness. So there you go. I'm always getting told.
Yeah, I like people on the internet are so super knowledge, and they always feel humbled.
I know. They come to this channel. I think sometimes they think we must, but we really don't. So it's really great.
Sorry guys, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm just like moving ships around and hoping to please you.
So on the subject of simulation sickness, motion sickness, however you want to call it, obviously frame rates come into that. What sort of minimum specs are you looking for the game in general and for the game in VR?
Yeah, you got me there because I'm totally not a technical guy, but if you give me a second, we have those on our Steam page.
Okay, I'm sure I could pull that up myself.
I'm really terrible with hardware.
That's not a problem.
People always ask,
while you're looking for that, Greg, I'll ask this question we were just talking about before we went on here, and I think one of the things that to us, both Greg and me, when we started talking about it, was music in Wipeout. We seem to remember it was the Chemical Brothers, wasn't it, Greg? Who decided it was,
yeah.
And it was just good to have that kind of real kind of electronica music just thumping away in the background, and that really sort of added to the feeling. I noticed on your page you talk about music, 5.1 support, which is great. Are you going to have some good tunes in there as well?
Sorry, come again? I didn't really hear your question. Are we going to have what?
Did you going to have any good music in there as well?
Of course we have good music. I mean, we have outstanding music, man. I mean, we got 2 in-house composers. One is working here, and the other is working in Denmark. I call him in-house because he's also a friend. But they created a dynamic soundtrack that actually adapts to the way you're driving and to be more specific, the faster you go, the sicker the pit will be.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's great.
We're also going to have filters for when you fly, for when you crash, and for underwater sections, because we also drive ships underwater with no filters or no tunnels, because screw it, is the future. We can just do that. So we have sort of, I believe it's 2-3 soundtrack per environment, and we have 4 different environments with 5 tracks each.
Great.
Nice.
Fantastic.
Nice.
And you have the filtering, so when you dunk into the water, you get some sort of like bubbly effects and sort of muting of the sound as you go through that environment. That's a very nice way of doing it.
Yes,
excellent.
precisely.
Really cool. So yeah, looking at the system specs here on Steam, there you've got a minimum system spec of an i3, 2.6 gigahertz, 4 gig of RAM, and GTX 560 or equivalent running DirectX 11. Recommended specs are a little bit higher. Windows 10, i5 at 2.6 gigahertz, 8 gigs of RAM, and a GTX 960 or equivalent. And again, DX11. So yeah, I mean, taking that up into VR, I wouldn't have thought the system specs are going to go too over the odds there, because I mean, to run that on a monitor, the specs aren't crazy. So yeah, I mean, that should translate into VR quite nicely, I would have thought.
Yeah, we worked really hard on optimization after E3 because of what we saw, and I would say it works rather smoothly now. And for VR, of course, but also for non-VR players who actually play on a crappy laptop, I can actually do that on mine, and you can. It's pretty crazy the tools that Unreal Engine puts at your disposal to actually lower details and resolution. You can almost make it look like an original PS1 game.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really cool. Where was I going next?
This is multiplayer as well, we noticed. Of course,
Yeah.
that's one of the key features of this. And
it is.
Yeah, there's a section we're going to be talking about a bit later about social VR and how important it is. How's that going to work then? So up to 12 players, and is that going to be servers that you guys run, or is it hosted through the client? How does that work?
We're going to have hosting matches, so you're going to decide if you want to host a match or not.
Excellent.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what we like to hear. Make it nice and easy.
Yeah.
That does sound a lot easier than most experiences that we've had recently.
Also, I guess it was also easier for us to develop. I mean, I'm not sure about that because, again, I'm not super technical, but yeah, it's pretty much the standard architecture that was. I grew up with it in a real tournament, for example. Like, just create a server and then invite a bunch of friends or not. Just leave it open and see. Like the first Russian guy comes in and just blasts you to death because they're always better than you, right?
Yeah. So keeping on with the multiplayer, what sort of game modes would we be looking to see in multiplayer?
In multiplayer, we're going to launch with plain and easy pace. So the first one to the finish line wins. But for Redout, we also have some different game modes that we are actually launching for single player only, because we would like to evaluate them a little better before we actually throw them to players. An interesting game mode is a score-based endurance race, where you actually, it's a very long race when you score points depending on your position and depending on the fact that you die or not, because you can actually explode. Scoring the fastest lap, going through speed traps and setting records, hitting turbos, staying ahead of packs and all that stuff. So basically your driving consistency is rewarded. And that's something that against the AI works really well. We're still evaluating if it would be exciting enough for players or not. And that is the first. And the second, the cruelest possible game is the arena race, where you don't have respawn. Because in Redout, yes, you can die, you can miss a jump, but then you respawn almost immediately. The effect is just you lose 2-3 seconds. But in this game mode, you wouldn't respawn. So one strike, you're out, basically.
Okay. Adds in a bit of difficulty, which is it's nice as well to have a bit of difficulty in there.
Yeah, and then another game mode that I really like is the boss game mode, because we also have boss trucks. As I said before, we have 4 environments, and each environment has 5 tracks. In boss mode, we actually chain the 5 tracks to teleporters. So you actually run the entire length of one environment, which is, depending on which environment, could be anything from 15 to 25 minutes.
Okay.
And yeah, it's a really long race. And of course, we put mines and obstacles on the track, so that's really evil. That might be, I would say, the first one we put in after the race. But again, no guarantees. We have to see how it works first.
Okay, so you're mentioning mines and obstacles there. Are we looking at some upgrades, power-ups, weapons for the ships as well then?
We are looking at upgrades and power-ups. We're not looking at weapons.
Okay.
For the simple reason that although we are flattered of all this interest and people say looks gorgeous as AAA, yay, we are as indie as it gets. I mean, we're a relatively small team with limited resources, and we've been self-funded throughout. So we had no funding, no Kickstarter, no crowdfunding, nothing. We just paid for Redout with our own work. So we had some precious time to allocate, and one of the things we didn't really feel comfortable in doing is mix race and combat. We said, let's go out there and make a super, super fast, actually possibly the fastest racing game ever made. Although that title belongs to Ballistics, but I didn't say that. We are, after Ballistics, we are the fastest game ever made.
Okay.
Well,
nice.
you say AAA, and I don't want to come across as sort of bitter here or labouring a point, but I think by VR standards, this is absolutely AAA. I think the quality now has dropped, and the fact that you're spending such a long time refining and getting this game right, and like you say, you're not spreading yourselves too thin. You're not having the kind of feature creep into areas like weapons. You just want to do one thing very well, and I think that's quite commendable. So yeah, I'm quite excited how this will turn out, and I've been looking through some of the images on my screen over here, and yeah, it's looking very new.
Can you actually show some footage of the game there, Chris?
I have been in the background. Don't worry, Greg. It's been spinning up and down. So
okay.
the people watching have been seeing.
Okay, nice one. So yes, all right. Where was I? Speed.
Where were you?
Yep. Handling as well. Handling, that's an important thing with a game like this. I actually played a game very similar recently. I won't name the game. It had been in development for a very long time for VR. And the handling on this ship and the game I'm speaking about, it felt like the ship was magnetized to the floor and only sort of strafe left or strafe right. And what I've noticed looking at the video footage of Redout is it has that really nice sort of banking and turning feel that you used to see in games like Wipeout. That to me really spoiled this other game that I'm talking about. And yeah, it looks really nice.
Thank you very much. First of all, I think I can mention that game, but I won't do it. And the second thing, you're completely right when you say that handling is really important. Actually, for us, handling is the one point that you have to get it right for this kind of game. As I said before, again, it's a racing game. What you're going to do, you're going to race, you're going to control your ship all the time. So ship control has to be perfect or near perfect, or at least exactly as you want it. And the way we wanted this, is kind of like in between F-Zero, Wipeout, and Truckmania.
Right, I got you.
Have you ever played Truckmania? I think it's an amazing racing game because with the same driving model, you can either like run on a circular track, just find the perfect lap time, just like get as close as you can to the border and really nail that perfect trajectory, or you could just go on those wacky, crazy tracks where you just need to actually land on the track on your next jump. And it's the same driving model. Yeah, and it's the same driving model, and it works flawlessly for both things. So we actually said, okay, let's try to do something similar. So in Redout, yes, it's super fast. Yes, it's super arcade. Yes, it's a racing game, so you actually have to learn the track and the trajectory, and occasionally, if need be, hit the brake. A little bit.
Nah, I doubt you need to hit the brakes. But you are absolutely right. One of the things that was most appealing about Wipeout was just the physics.
Yeah.
And the feeling, I don't know, it's really hard to explain, but for me it was a bit like flying a kite. You know, when you held the controls in Wipeout and you guided the ship around the track, it sort of moved in a very fluid and sort of purposeful manner, and it felt right. You know, it felt like the physics were actually spot on. So if you can get anywhere close to that kind of sensation of being in control of the ship, then yeah, I'm sure you're onto an absolute winner. And the trailers look very, very good. It looks like definitely that game mechanic is very present.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, I would try to go for something similar, although the driving model for Redout, as you will be able to see if you play, I hope you do, it's slightly different. We tried to innovate the formula a little bit, so we actually introduced dual sticks control, so we don't have air brakes like in the classic Wipeout. Okay. What you do is you use both sticks. One is for steering, so to change the direction of your ship, and the other is for strafing, so to move it horizontally. And what you do is you use both in the turns. So you actually try to get as close as possible to the internal point of the turn. I don't know the English term of that. I forgot. The apex, yes. And then you also use the strafing for adjusting your trajectory when going out of the turns to avoid obstacles and to controlling flights.
Okay.
Great. Well, I'm very much looking forward to it. I think if it does all the things you're promising, I think it's certainly going to be an excellent game. I think I can safely say there's not many, and there certainly isn't many sort of AAA-like titles that are in this kind of third-person perspective, kind of chase cam, if you want, racing game style. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to seeing how this turns out. So thank you.
Yeah, I've actually been trying to play it the past few days, but for some reason, I don't know whether the key I got from you guys was for a beta or whether it wasn't. But at the moment, I can't actually download the game to play it. So I think I'm going to have to wait till release. But definitely, as soon as it comes out, I'll be checking that out, and we'll hopefully get some videos made of that.
I'm so sorry for that.
No, it's okay.
We'll send you another key. That's fine.
My copy's working fine though. Don't worry about it.
Looks like we have a favorite one. Didn't want to tell you, man.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. No,
okay, well, thank you so much for joining us today, Giuseppe. So you are most welcome to stay on the cast, or you can disappear and go and live your own life. And maybe we then get on in the future to talk about the amazing success this game's been in the open world. And best of luck.
I really hope so, and thank you for having me here. And I'll gladly stay.
Excellent. You stay on there and jump in and comment on whatever you. All right then, Greg. What do you want to talk about now? Next on the list I've got is Mythica, but we don't talk about that.
Well, you can we'll have a look at that. I'm not overly familiar with that one at the moment, so I will be quickly looking it up as you are.
As I wing it as well, because unfortunately, we were going to have Wayne on tonight talking about Mythica. Unfortunately, Wayne is otherwise kind of busy. But essentially, Mythica VR, it's currently on a Kickstarter campaign. So at the moment, it's got 23 days to go. It's only actually raised $15,788 of its $80,000 goal. I don't know how good that is, really. It's looking a bit weak from a Kickstarter perspective, I would have thought. Certainly since...
How much did you say it raised so far?
15,000, which is quite good. It's not terrible, but they want 80,000. So yeah, I hope they get it, because there seems to be a lot of hype around this. Some of their kind of pledge amounts are quite high, let's see how it pans out. So basically, Mythica VR, if I just bring it up on the screen over here, I can bring up the Kickstarter page, bring it up here. So essentially what it is, it's virtual reality questing. So, think D&D, but with your Vive. And I think that's basically as you get it. Yeah, so it's like a role-playing game, and you can play with your friends, and effectively, rather than rolling dice and looking a bit sad, you can actually be hitting skeletons on the head with swords and whatnot. So I know I would actually love this, as much as I'm sounding like I'm mocking this whole genre. I really am not. I used to play D&D when I was at college, and yeah, this is looking pretty good. So it looks like actually game masters here, you can actually build maps really easily as well. So that's very appealing, and effectively the game master can control the environment, but instead of it being on a board, it's in VR. Looks very nice indeed. I'm actually quite excited. I'm more excited about it now I've looked through it. I understand why Wayne's getting so...
So is this actually working as a board game that you play in VR, or are you playing this in the first person mode, or how's it actually working, Chris?
So it looks like basically, well, the way D&D works is like a game master. You have the guy that controls the game, so they will, effectively build a dungeon, put monsters in there, and create sort of things that obstacles to get past. And that's exactly what you can do with this very simple looking interface. I'm seeing the animated GIF here. So it looks like a very similar kind of mechanism for a game master. But what I don't really understand is whether this actually happens in real time. I presume it actually does. So the game master would be a sort of third person in the game, and he'd be sort of creating obstacles for his friends who are playing the game to get around.
Are you saying kind of like, what was that TV show that they used to have for...
Yes, like that.
The Games Master.
Yes, that's right, the Games Master.
So kind of similar to that?
Very similar to that.
Okay. Well, that does sound more interesting now. I used to like watching that when I was a kid.
That's right, I remember. That was actually really creepy.
Yeah.
Children died in it every episode. There was
like some weird bald hologram dude, and they had to wear a helmet with horns or something. Is that not right?
That's the one, yeah.
Yeah.
Games Master, that's what it was. It was, and if for people who are not British and don't know what we're talking about here, Games Master was just very much a thing that Donna and I must have grown up with as youngsters. But it was very deeply disturbing. Yeah, I think we're going a bit off topic now, but anyway, yeah. So there you go. Virtual reality D&D. I think that's all we'll say about that. But I'm kind of looking forward to playing that, to be honest.
Yeah, definitely.
I can do it in the...
It's something I'm going to have to do a little bit more research on myself, but I'm liking the sound of that.
Come on, we wing every episode, Greg. Come on, let's not change our ways now. Oh God. All right. So the next thing I wanted to talk through, it's just a short thing really, but I picked up an article I was reading on Upload VR, where they were talking about the fact that the latest Note series phone has a USB-C headset. The Note 7 has a USB-C interface, and effectively could be used with a Leap Motion. So they're saying that potentially Leap Motion could develop their Leap Motion headset to sort of attach to the front of your Gear VR and effectively get your hands into a Gear VR, which I was very excited when I read this article, and then I read it all the way through and realised, in fact, no one's actually going to do this. This is just, it could happen, but nobody's actually doing anything. So I think there's a lot of people saying, wouldn't it be great if, but I didn't really want to go into too much detail on this. It kind of reminds me of the whole Vico VR thing. People are really crying out for full body or even like hand tracking inside of mobile VR at the moment. So this seems to be yet another thing people are looking at. Can they possibly get Leap Motion to work? I don't know.
Well, it is very interesting, and the fact that it's a possibility is quite exciting. Because I'm sure that people with Gear VRs, you are quite limited in how you interact with the environment. I mean, you can use joypads with them, but to be able to get your hands in there, I suppose that would be, it would make the mobile VR genre far more interesting in my eyes anyway.
Yeah, I think one of the things that was mentioned by John Carmack was that we don't have the positional tracking with the Gear VR at the moment. Then effectively it kind of breaks the way that it would work. You know what I mean? So you'd effectively see your hands, but if you leaned in, it would again break that sense of immersion. So I guess there's a lot of very clever people in the VR community, and there's people out there that are willing to hack around with this stuff. I think although, you know, correct me if I'm wrong on this, I think the Delete Motion has some pretty good kind of SDK stuff, so I think people can hack around with it quite easily. So who knows? We might see something for Gear VR owners. But I don't care about those guys anyway, so I don't have a Gear VR. I'm just jealous.
Well, I'm due for upgrade on my mobile in the next month and a half, I think.
You need to do it. You need to do it, Greg.
I may well have to go for the Note 7. I've had the Note 2, the Note 3, the Note 4, so I'm thinking, why not just go for this and try out the gear anyway.
I think you should, and you know, I've said it before, I'll say it again, Gear VR is disappointingly good. I remember my friend showing it to me, and I remember looking at it thinking, oh my god, this is 90% what the Oculus Rift CV1 is, and for a fraction of the price in reality. So,
talking of different headsets, I'm going to go back to Giuseppe on this one, because this was something I forgot to ask. We did mention different VR headsets for Redout, such as OS VR, Vive, and Oculus, but is there any sort of prospect of PlayStation there? As PlayStation VR is looming very, very close, and it would be, I would have thought, a great opportunity for your game to try and push towards that. You
see, the problem with this is that I'm really terrible with NDAs, so I'm not sure what I can say or not.
We're always breaking NDAs. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. So, what was that Obama gave that says maybe, I don't know, it's classified?
Yeah, we get
All right. Say no more. We don't want to get you in trouble.
But like PlayStation and Xbox are coming next year.
So, and you're not going to say no, basically. If the opportunity was there, you wouldn't turn it down.
No, what he's saying is there's stuff going on in the background he can't talk about.
Yeah.
I can just disappear.
Okay. Bundled into the back of a Sony van. We'll never hear from him again.
Please, guys, don't come for me. I have a game to finish.
Yeah. I'm just looking. It was called Nightmare. Nightmare, Greg. That's what it was called. And the adventure game. Nightmare Greg. No, you're Nightmare Greg.
Oh, the program.
The adventure game. Yeah, and Nightmare. Those were the ones.
That's it. Nightmare.
Thanks, guys. So just on chat tonight, we've got a lot of the usual suspects here. We've got FX Node. We've got Zaran. We've got Pretty Neat Gamer. I don't know if that's Billy or someone else. I kind of hope it's someone else now. Julian Lewis, got Harv. We got loads of people. I think we even got our good friend Don in there, who Don unfortunately has a personal engagement tonight, so he can't be with us, which is a shame. He's missed 2 weeks in a row, and we don't let him forget it, do we? No. Okay, good stuff.
Must try harder, Don.
Must try harder. C minus. C minus. So, yeah, just going through the agenda, there's another little thing I wanted to talk about. Now, we'll see, I'm wearing my Rick and Morty t-shirt today.
Yeah.
I've got a few of these, believe it or not. It's a bit weird for a 40-year-old man, but there you go. I absolutely love that cartoon series, and have you ever watched it, Greg?
No.
You've got to. I know you don't like cartoons or
TV. It's TV, mate.
Just
if I cannot control what's happening on the screen, it doesn't interest me.
Well, I'll tell you, it's worth a shot. It's a very, very funny cartoon series. Anyway, I'm going a bit off topic here. The co-creator of that, and the guy who does the voice of both Rick and Morty, is a guy called Justin Roiland. Now, and he also does the voice for Lemon Grab, which is one of my favourite characters from another cartoon series, Adventure Time. Interesting fact there. He's working on a new VR game studio, and I'm just trying to find the information. It's called Squanch Tendo, and he's basically, he's basically just working with an ex-Epic games producer, and I'm trying to find out her name. A very pretty lady, and that's all I remember. And I shouldn't remember the attractiveness of the individual. I should actually remember her name, which would be much professional. But anyway, they've got together, and it sounds very interesting. He's been very interested in getting some VR titles. Of course, he worked with Alchemy Lab on that kind of job simulator Rick and Morty episode,
Yeah.
which I haven't tried. And so, yeah, it's interesting. He's one of one of these guys who's just absolutely hooked on VR and wants to get involved, which is really, really great to see. So, can I have a firm promise from you then, Greg, that you'll go away and have a look at Rick and Morty, please, and come back next week?
Okay.
And you know what? It's very strange. He's actually, I'm presuming, because he did the voice of Lemongrab and worked on Adventure Time, I'm presuming he's a friend of Pendleton Ward. Pendleton Ward created the Adventure Time series, and he is also a massive fan of VR. And if you go on his Twitter Twitter page, Pendleton Ward, it's mainly talking about VR stuff. So all these guys, all these creatives, are really trying to transition into VR. They can see how fantastic VR is, and not just for their medium, their particular cartoon, just for just creating content generally. So it's actually really exciting.
Yeah, well, I mean, when you're looking at these sort of cartoon things coming towards VR, one of the first things that I thought when I got my Vive and Jump in Job Simulator was, it reminded me a lot of how The Simpsons is drawn, and really made me want to just be inside an episode of The Simpsons. So I hope that comes soon as well. I think VR Simpsons would be absolutely bonkers.
Yeah, someone did. Let me remember now. There was a virtual reality Family Guy, wasn't there? So you could jump in there and actually wander around the Family Guy house. I remember thinking that was really, really well done. Again, it was fan created. A lot of this stuff sort of disappeared, I guess, because of copyright issues. But you know, when people were creating a lot of these demos, it was really nice to see this kind of stuff. I don't remember a Simpsons one ever coming out though. You're right there. There was a South Park one as well. Do you remember that?
Well, on the subject of South Park, we have the fractured butthole. I don't know if you've seen anything of that.
I have.
Have you seen the fractured butthole, Giuseppe?
Yeah, I've learned about it at E3, and I thought that the name was just brilliant, and I was actually jealous of their brilliance. I thought, why can't I be that brilliant?
Yeah, it's quite surprising. And I mean, this game's going to be virtual reality, and they've got this crazy device, the nozzleless Rift.
Nostrilless Rift.
Yeah, basically. So while you're playing the game, you've got this horrific gadget stuck to your face, and you smell farts.
Yes.
Absolutely crazy.
That is what it does.
Yep.
It is actually. I thought it was a joke, and then I realised, in fact, it's actually real. They actually created it for. They created, I think, for it like E3 and those sort of games things, that it's going to be there. So I'm actually going to try and search that out if I can.
I think 99% of the population thought that was a joke, but no, you're correct, it's real.
Oh dear. Anyway, yes. So is that actually going to be VR though? It's not going to be VR, is it?
Yeah. The Fractured Butthole is a VR title apparently.
Wow.
Very immersive.
I did not know that. Okay, we'll see. We'll see if it does. I don't know. I'm not so certain about that, but okay. I'll trust you, Greg. I'm sure it is if you say it is. Okay. Yeah. So I think that the next subject we wanted to have a little chat about, Greg, and I don't want it to be we always say we don't want it to be negative. This podcast, it's friendly. We really appreciate the fact we're friends with a lot of developers who are creating titles right now. But I just want to sort of go back a little bit to a post that was on Vive Reddit, and I think this was the beginning of the end. And I'll just pop it up on the screen here. I don't know if you remember this one. This was a little post, got very, very popular. Look at the upvotes there, 2,910. VR developers, you do not need to go through Steam Greenlight. And everyone was so happy to hear this. And this was the writing on the wall for the problem we've got now. Is like, I mean, it's no exaggeration, I don't think, to say pretty much everything is getting through the process. So I don't know who working at Valve or Steam or whatever you want to call it, I don't know who's clicking the button and approving all these titles. There's a lot of crap coming through, right, Greg? I mean, let's be honest.
The thing is, This is why we're getting guys like Giuseppe on here that have titles that are looking something that little bit extra for VR. But at the moment, you're seeing what 3, 4, 5 games dropping a day on Steam for VR, and it's
Oh,
getting to
at
the point
least.
where we've got over 500 titles, and for new people coming into Steam and coming into VR, it's quite confusing for them actually to search through all this stuff and find what they're actually looking for, or find the more polished titles and the ones that work as they should do.
Mm.
It's not to say that devs shouldn't be doing early access and stuff, but it's just how early sometimes. Yeah, I get what you're saying.
How early it comes out. I think it's almost, there's early access, which, everyone accepts early access. You get something that everyone's quite excited about, that maybe is being greenlit by the community. There's a bit of hype around it, and so you buy into it knowing that you're supporting the dev and it's giving them the funds to take it further. But with the VR stuff that's coming in, it's not even that it's early access. I mean, some of it isn't early access. It's the completed thing. It's just kind of, I think Nafi, we were chatting with him earlier about this, and he said it best. It's just exploiting people's lack of understanding and lack of exposure to virtual reality. So basically, anything looks good in VR. You could stand in a pretty much plain 10-meter by 10-meter cube, and to someone who hasn't played much in VR, it would be staggering. I mean, I'm exaggerating slightly, but
no, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
It doesn't take much to make VR amazing, but yeah, there you go. I mean, it just seems to be.
I mean,
really sort of
when
this.
we're talking of early access as well, I'm not saying early access is a bad thing. I've been a massive fan of early access
I've
and
supported a lot.
backed plenty of fantastic games that have come from early access. Project Cars, back to Elite Dangerous, and many, many others that I can't remember offhand. And there's been some fantastic stuff there, but I mean, one that I will mention at the moment was there's a title called Island 359. Now that's just released. It is a virtual reality game for the Vive, and it's early access. And my feelings on the game were I quite liked it. I went in, I quite liked the fact that you could move freely through the environments. It wasn't just how would I say, a gallery shooter where you're stuck on the spot. You can actually move through the environment. But I don't know. It felt very sparse. You were in a rainforest. The vegetation felt very, very sparse. There was a lack of kind of interaction, just in the sense that you could have had a couple of teammates in there with you running alongside you. Maybe just NPCs, not necessarily online or anything, just some NPCs, some dialogue, maybe shoot along with you at the dinosaurs and add a bit of life to the game. I don't know, but this has come early access, and you can see, it is early, but the early access that they're looking to give it is 6 months. And I'm kind of wondering myself, how far can you take this in 6 months,
Yeah, exactly. And, I was. I perhaps kind of jumped on the bandwagon a little bit with Island 359 as well. I wrote an article on the website. I helped promote the game because the trailers looked absolutely amazing. It looked like a really fun wave shooter, but actually, as you say, it didn't really live up to the hype. And that's, I guess, the problem with a lot of these games now. Trailers are great. It's just when you play the game. I mean, I'm just looking now. You're right. I mean, there's about 5 or 6, 7 maybe dropping every single day. Or a couple of days ago, there was one came out called Quarterback Snap. Okay, that's a good example. And I'm not picking on the guys who made Quarterback Snap, but it's basically a game where you throw balls to other guys in a field. Yeah, you're throwing balls at targets. I mean, if you bought that as a monitor game, well, you wouldn't buy it as a monitor game because it's ridiculous. But even in the way it's constructed, the way it's programmed, how much would you pay for that? I don't know, like 99p. And these things are priced at $14.99. $14.99. It's crazy. That's a ridiculous price for a game.
It is great that Steam are getting content out there for VR, but Yeah, it's just, I don't know. As someone who's been such an avid fan of VR since day one, since the DK1 come out, I've been with VR since the DK1 come out and played everything that I possibly can and really, really enjoyed it. And at the moment, I'm kind of worrying that although Valve are getting plenty of content out there, some of that might be scaring people off.
Yeah, I think also, you know, it's mentioned in chat here, and it's worth mentioning that the demise of Oculus Share. I know it's sort of moved across to the Oculus Home, but not really. Oculus Share was fantastic. I mean, you and I did the same thing. We'd jump on Oculus Share, we'd download someone's VR effort. Often it wouldn't be very good, but you'd just try it out, and it would be a nice experience.
Mm-hmm.
They would always be free, and you got to see where people were going with the genre. It would share ideas. And that doesn't really exist so much anymore. There's some places do it. Is it We Are VR? Does it still?
Yeah.
But they're trying to monetize their site. We've talked about it on VRSpies before about potentially starting to host sort of free of charge little tech demos and things, a little bit like an Oculus Share again. And I think we seriously need to think about doing that. You know, really sort of opening up the free content, allowing devs to share what they're doing, and just giving people a little bit more exposure to works in progress without having to pay $15 for it. You know, it's crazy. So yeah, that's definitely one to think about, Greg.
Yes.
Yes.
So, without being too negative, what else
We're
have we got on
not
the
that
agenda?
negative.
Because we don't want to
Let's
be
positive.
Yeah.
Let's go positive. Go on. Well, there's no in the chat here. We've got they're mentioning something you've mentioned a few times before, which was, and I've lost it now. I bloody well lost it. Onward.
Onward, yeah.
Which you're very excited about, Greg, aren't you?
I am. Wayne has been accepted into the Onward alpha beta. I think he's been trying to get that sorted out over the last week or so with the developer, so hopefully he'll get it in there before it releases. According to Steam, it should be releasing this month though, so there isn't many days left in the month, so we should be seeing it on Steam within the next few days. And yes, I really like the look of it. There isn't anything really like Onward for the Vive at the moment. And I don't know, I mean, I messed around with Arma 3 and Vortex. Now, I know Onward isn't Arma 3, but it has that sort of vibe to it. And it just looks like a lot of fun to jump in there with friends and go sniping out of buildings, running around little sort of shanty towns and taking cover and sniping. It looks great.
It does. I'm just firing up some screenshots here, and yeah, it's a kind of genre of game that's sadly been a bit missing, isn't it? You know, it's quite exciting to see it coming in.
A little bit of the squad. I played a little bit of the squad in the DK2. It's not working quite so well in the Vive as it worked in the DK2, but although it wasn't perfect in the DK2, and it hasn't been billed as a VR game either, so we can't say the devs haven't done a good job because they aren't billing the game as a VR game. It's just the fact that it uses Unreal Engine, it lets you hook in with your VR headset because they haven't disabled it. But that was fantastic as well, and I'm really hoping they start doing something with that VR-wise. Have you checked out the squad at all, Chris?
No, I don't think I have it. I need to check that out. Absolutely.
I said, it's not something I would say go and rush out and buy the squad if you've got a VR headset, because it is in no way meant to be played in one. It's just by chance that the devs haven't
turned it off.
Yes.
Okay. It's nice when they do that, isn't it?
It lets us make a video. Hello guys, it's me again, look!
I know. Do you remember Vanishing of Ethan Carter, though? Someone mentioned this to me the other day. It's a bit of a peculiar one, that. And I know I'm jumping slightly off topic here, but Vanishing of Ethan Carter, when they accidentally released that as a VR title by I don't know what they did, forgetting to turn something off. They accidentally enabled VR, and it was brilliant. It looked amazing. And now they've released a kind of optimized version for VR, and it looks pretty lame.
Watered down a little bit.
Watered down, yeah, exactly. Watered down, which is a real shame, isn't it? And I'm kind of glad I recorded it.
I wouldn't say it looks lame. Basically, all they've done there is before it was actually had proper VR support. You had more play with the graphics options. What they've done for the VR is they've kind of toned down what you can do with the graphics options to make it run better in a VR headset for everyone. So basically, we're in the unfortunate position, Chris, that we saw it before its actual release. And it's not quite as polished. Well, not polished. Basically, you just can't turn things up as high as you used to. They've kind of used it as a safety barrier, and you can see why they've done it. You know.
You can, because it is a beautiful looking game, and if anything is going to be destroyed, as far it's going to destroy the frames per second, it will be that game. So it's a very high end system that can run it in ultra.
I mean, you have to take into account as well that devs at the moment, I suppose, kind of have to almost protect themselves by doing things like that, because I mean, there are people out there with PCs, gaming PCs, that will jump in that game, smash it to ultra settings, not have the card to do it, and then complain about the game. And devs need to be careful of that. They know it can happen, that there's people that might not understand how VR works and how important the frame rates are, and basically give the game bad press because it's not running well on their system at their settings.
Yeah, exactly.
If that makes any sense, I suppose.
It does. Now, just scanning over our forum.vrspies.com, I was just having a little look at what people are talking about on there this week. One of the things actually jumped out at me straight away, and we forgot to mention, Game Hard is back.
Yes.
We did a video earlier, which is really fantastic.
Have you ever heard of Game Hard 4.0, Giuseppe?
I'm afraid not.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's a very good friend of ours. He has a YouTube channel. He's covered virtual reality for the past couple of years, but unfortunately, guy's been quite ill lately. So it's good to see him coming back.
Yeah, it's a real shame. The guy's had a crap run of luck. I think that's the only way you can put it. And most recently managed to fall downstairs and injure himself quite badly, and he's been out of action for the last few weeks in a bad way. But he uploaded a video earlier, and happy to report he's doing all right. He's on the mend. He's looking he's looking slimmer. I don't know if that's good or bad, really. He was already pretty slim, but he's looking pretty healthy, and he sounds like his old self again. So that's really good. So I'm really pleased to see him up and about. And the only problem was, on his video, he was saying he couldn't get his Rift to work, so hopefully he gets that fixed.
Oh, that's not so good.
Give him a call and help sort that out. So that's good old Game Hard. So the other thing that someone mentioned, and it sort of got me thinking a little bit, and that was with the HTC Vive 2.0. Do you know much about this rumour? I've heard it's been largely confirmed, isn't it?
Yeah, I've heard little snippets of it. I haven't really been delving into it much because I've had quite a busy week and my weekend has been crazy with the kids, so I haven't really had too much of a chance. Have you done any research?
I've been looking into it. I mean, essentially, what's been discovered is that some of the suppliers that work with HTC Vive have kind of leaked some information that the design has changed.
Was this the head strap manufacturers? Because I did hear about that.
Yeah, the head strap, I think that's part of it. I think there's maybe, what I'm hoping is, and maybe I'm reading into this too much, but I'm hoping they're addressing the clear design flaw that is the HTC Vive head and wire situation. Let me just get mine out and we'll have a little look at it, just in case anyone forgets what they look like. But of course, you get this pressure.
Yeah.
So, this is hanging off your head, and often these things, if you don't give them a bit of slack, you're hanging off the wire, and you may actually be pulling away, you know, the circuit board inside there away from its, you know, I don't know, stuff in there gets pulled from other stuff, and it's bad, and your screen goes black. And so I think they're going to try and resolve maybe routing the wire differently around the side.
No, yeah, I do know exactly what you're talking about, and I may actually have one on the way. It's a singular 3-in-1 cable, so basically,
yes, that's part of it as well.
Basically the new cable is a single cable that runs along the headset, and then it comes into a 3-way connection at the top, so you'll have the 3 connectors going into the headset. It comes back, goes into one cable, routes back down to the link box, and then splits into the 3 again. I'm hoping I have one of them on the way.
Okay, that would be good.
Hopefully, anyway, we shall see.
Okay. Well, it will certainly be, you know, essentially mine's been modified slightly with slightly thinner foam, which makes it a better FOV. I have been looking, because I've got the 3D printer now, I've been looking at all the different things you can 3D print. Just
the free foam, did that any chance come from these guys?
It did. I was plugging the VR cover again. We all
why not? Why not? They sent us free stuff.
Yeah, that's right. But actually, one of the things I saw on Thingiverse, which I'm just going to show here, hopefully I don't get into trouble for just showing their website, but I'm going to build this, I think, because I think I can build this without buggering up my headset too much. Let me just fire it up on the screen here. So you guys maybe can't see this. Let me just present it to you as well. So you can get this very, very highly, I know it's a bit weird looking, you can get a very highly adjustable welder's mask. You can buy them on eBay for about 10 quid. And they're very, very comfortable and very, very highly adjustable. And the 3D printed element of this is basically a little bracket here that sort of slots the welder's helmet into your HTC Vive.
Chris.
So apparently you can modify your Vive to fit onto this welder's helmet, and it fits much, much better.
Chris.
What?
Can you print me some brackets, please, buddy?
Well, yeah, absolutely. I think maybe I'll give it a try first, Greg, so you're not wasting your time. But I think the feedback out there is...
I mean, I actually quite like it. When I first saw it and I first looked at it, I was like, what is this evil head contraption? But taking some time to look at that, I can see why that could be actually quite nice. Especially
I think so.
If you're wearing that sort of beanie hat underneath it, it would add a little bit of comfort in. And
yeah, you can see it's only these 2 things, so effectively 2 brackets that interface with a standard welder's helmet, and then effectively, I guess, clip onto the existing bracket system without doing any damage. So all this is removable, and yeah, no, it looks quite sensible, to be honest.
Well,
I had the same reaction as you, Greg. I thought, no, seriously, they can't be serious. That looks horrendous. But
the reason that I'm actually saying, can you print me some of these brackets? Now, if I can grab a hold of my Vive, I'll show you why I'm saying this. Where are we? Let me find it. Yeah. Okay, so you've got on the back of the Vive, you see you've got this sort of cradle at the back, and you've got this harder neoprene right at the back here, the hard neoprene piece. I mean, if I can get this into the camera, I don't know how well I'm going to be able to do this.
Yeah, I can see that.
But if you can see there, it's delaminating.
Oh.
So something like that, to me, I'm thinking that's going to potentially give me more life out of my headset. Now, taking into account that headset has actually been away on RMA for 3 months, I haven't had that headset since it launched, and it's already starting to do that. I looked into the issue, and there is people mentioning that in forums online that there are other people having this issue, so I'd be quite happy just taking the thing apart and making it a little bit more solid myself.
Yeah, okay, mate. What I'll do tomorrow is I'll have a little look at printing them, and I'll get some over to you. But yeah, I've been printing stuff for people quite a lot recently. Don doesn't realise it, but I printed him some stuff, and that's in the post, Don. You should. In fact, I sent it about a week ago. You should get it this week, Don. So there you go, little present for you. Oh, no, nice. And a guy on the forum asked for a who was it? It was Flow for some of those attachment mod, effectively for the Oculus Rift. So I printed out one of those and sent it off to him. So yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff you can print for the Vive and the Rift at the moment. I'm really getting into it. It was Caleb got me into this stuff. I blame Caleb completely. I saw him printing like a madman and decided to bite the bullet and get mine. So
yeah. So Giuseppe, we've been prattling on here for a little while. And our usual nonsense, but just coming back to yourself.
You sound really knowledgeable to me, actually. I'm learning a lot, so thank you very much.
Coming back to yourself there, do you actually, apart from obviously your own game, do you actually play much VR? Do you bother to jump into VR, and if so, what do you like playing?
I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint you again. Yeah, this is kind of somewhat personal, I would say, but I commute a lot.
Busy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you know, like, northern Italy a bit. The office is in Torino, which is Turin, and I live in Milan, which is pretty, like 15 minutes of bullet train away. So that eats almost 2 hours each way of my day away. So I play a stupid amount of mobile games and I read a stupid amount of articles about video games, but I don't get to play any video game besides one. That's also why I'm looking forward to launch Redout, so I can actually go back and play video games and see all this fuss with virtual reality, because I totally lost the train. But yeah,
I know.
Yeah,
I don't have enough time.
Yeah. Of course, we've been playing around a lot with VR headset. We got the first Oculus DK1 dev kit, and we've been playing around with that. I was actually really funny how we started playing around with VR in Redout, because we basically just forgot the development kit attached to the computer, and then we fired up the Redout build, and all of a sudden we had 2 screens, and oh, what's going on? Oh, we forgot the Oculus. Let's try. Just put it on, and it would just work. That was a funny moment.
Oh, that's great. Really great. It's funny. I say this to people, and I think they think I'm making it up, but I think the amount of VR I actually play, you can see on my video channel. And that's the honest truth. I mean, other than the stuff I do with my kids and like when I let those guys have a go, I don't really play it very often. I just don't have the time. I work very hard during the day, and you know, everything is recorded.
Yeah, well, I mean, I suppose in my last job, where I was working away for a month at a time, and then I'd be off for a month or a month and a half before I went back for a month's work, then I had a lot more time to do the gaming. But at the moment, while I'm working a normal sort of 9 to 5 at the moment, I know where you're coming from. It's definitely hard to find the family time, hard to find video recording time, as well as keeping up with the website and social media and forum, and then trying to find your own time to do a bit of gaming. Yeah, it is quite tough.
It is tough. I mean, today, I think, preparing for even the subjects that we talked about on this podcast today, I found it actually, I had to sort of put aside about 3 hours just to go through a few things. Yes, this is us with 3 hours of preparation. I mean, usually we're just winging it, so, you know, I hope you appreciate this, guys.
Actually, if I may jump in and make a point there, I think it's really funny, at least it was funny to me, the shifting perspective from being player to being like a professional working with games. And this is actually a plea to all video gamers out there. Talk simple when you talk to game developers, because we are stupid gamers. Because we basically, the thing is, we forgot how to game for most of the time, because like game development eats up so much of your time, and all of a sudden you see games and you have that critical eye sort of thing, so you don't really get to enjoy the game the way you used to.
Yeah,
that kind of shifts perspective a little bit. It's kind of awkward to explain, and I might sound a little, I don't know, corner pretentious or But it actually happened to me a lot. I actually realized when I want to enjoy video games, I need much more time to get into it, and I really have to shut my brain off. So that's the thing. Like when you talk to us, we are stupid gamers. We're not able to think like gamers anymore. So please be direct, be straightforward, and just say what you think.
Yeah.
No, I can completely understand that. I think I've done some development work myself, and I don't know if you look at the same thing you're developing for hours and hours and days, and you start to sort of be, the expression I use is you're humming your own music, right? You're sort of, the tune you're trying to put across, and you're humming that tune to people, and you're hoping that they understand the tune you're humming. But really, listening to what people want and turning that into something that is an end result is really, really difficult. That's a challenge for every developer out there, whatever you're developing. So I completely understand. I'm just getting completely sidetracked by Thingiverse now. There's so many cool things to print. So, yeah.
So, Chris, have
Yes.
we got anything else on the agenda?
God no. We're completely boiled dry. Scraping the bottom of the barrel now.
So we have scraped.
We have scraped.
Okay.
This is it.
So, this is the time to ask the viewers if there's any questions that they want to get in before we come to the end of the podcast. Start typing now.
Yes, and let us know. And
I see people going to the pub already, so...
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, I mean, we've been running for a little while now, so...
Absolutely. I think actually, you know what? Why don't we just finish on a... Well, not finish, but I was going to do an article on the VRSpies, and often at the end of the podcast, I try and talk about things that are related to, I don't know, futurism, or maybe a sort of philosophical or moral debate around virtual reality.
Yes, you do like your boring Chris.
I do like my boring crap, but you guys, you put up with me. You let me have my moment of sounding sort of pseudo-intellectual, and I really appreciate that. And I was reading just recently, because just recently I've been having difficulty sleeping, which sounds a bit weird, but I generally don't have...
me. You having lack of sleep? No.
No, I generally sleep really well. But recently, I mean in the last year, my sleep patterns have gone weird. And I put it down to, and I sort of theorized that it was to do with blue light, to do with the fact that when I wear my headset, I'm getting too much blue light late in the evening, or maybe I'm just driving around in project cars in the middle of the day, taking my headset off at 1 o'clock in the morning, and lo and behold, I get to sleep. So that actually, no, I think that is part of it.
Okay.
But I was reading about loneliness and social isolation. And I started to realise actually that when you play VR games and you're not in a kind of not in a social way, so you're playing games where you're effectively isolated within virtual reality, you are the most lonely you can be. You are the most socially isolated you can be. I mean, seriously, you think about it, right? You're in a completely well, let's call it a completely immersed environment, right? So you're playing VR and you're not with anyone else. You couldn't be more isolated at that point. From a kind of personal perspective, a personal point of view, you are isolated. And I started to read up, well, maybe that's what's having a negative effect on me, that kind of isolation in VR. And reading about it, believe it or not, it can have that effect on you. Being socially isolated can affect your sleep patterns, can affect your weight, which I'm blaming VR for putting on too much weight, guys. This is it's VR.
So it's not all those pies that you're eating, no?
No, Greg, no. Clearly nothing to do with the pies and the crisps and the cake.
Okay.
Right, it's VR. Right, just bear with me on this one. I'm going somewhere with it. But yeah, but apparently this kind of social isolation can be a major negative effect on your physical and mental well-being. So I was just thinking about it and theorizing that maybe social VR is something we really, really need, and I guess that's a nice loop back to Redout, which has multiplayer, so we don't need to worry about it.
Yep.
Redout won't be one of those games that kills you.
Well, the social interaction you're going to have in Redout is basically slamming into other ships, so they're slamming into other people. If for being social you mean having car accidents, then you got you covered.
It's a form of interaction. Yeah, for
nice.
Sure.
Well, that was another interesting look into Chris's weird and wonderful little brain.
Thanks, Greg.
You're
Thanks
welcome.
for being so bloody patronising.
Mm-hmm.
Right, okay. Right then, let's have a little look in here and see if we've got any questions. Oh, here we go. Here's an interesting one. What do we think about the ZeniMax lawsuit?
Oh, ZeniMax. Yeah.
ZeniMax.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, it's been going on for a while now. It's coming to a head at some point soon. I noticed that there was something, I can't remember where, I read something on the internet recently about it, that it was going to be hotting up soon, and no doubt it is going to come to a head at a point, and we'll find out what happens there. Hello,
Maybe
Don.
we could ask Stevie Wonder. Stevie? Over to you, Stevie.
What?
Do you know much about the ZeniMax lawsuit?
Well, you're talking to me?
Yeah, I'm talking to you.
Okay, well, I know that it's a pile of crap, that it's a big cash grab from ZeniMax trying to leech onto Oculus getting $2 billion worth of Facebook money.
Yeah, don't hold back.
Yeah, it's all right. It is what it is. But no, I mean, I think it's kind of I really do see it as a cash grab on ZeniMax's part. They're throwing out like just incredulous claims all over the place. I mean, now they're saying that they stole the technology, that Palmer was not even capable of creating the SDK, and it was Carmack that helped him create the SDK. So I don't know where all their claims are coming from.
Carmack had been working for them, so I think that's where that's come from. But yeah, we'll just have to wait and see. Hopefully, Oculus find out of it and it doesn't cause them any issues. But it's one of them. I mean, they've got good lawyers behind them. They've got Facebook lawyers behind them. So regardless, I mean, they should be well protected there.
Oh, yeah.
It's an industry in
Facebook's
its own right. Industry in its own right.
No leg to stand on with this, so they're going to fight it completely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, and hopefully they win. I mean, at the end of the day, no one wants to see the little guy get screwed over, and even if there is any kind of claim to be had here, I'm hoping it gets sorted out. Mm-hmm. But Silicon Valley. Talking about Silicon Valley, this isn't necessarily Silicon Valley, but I've worked for companies in Silicon Valley for many, many years. And one thing is that intelligence and sort of brain power moves around the valley, it moves between companies, and it is nonsense to suggest that people don't share that knowledge between companies, that you don't gain something from one company and take it to another company. That's not stealing information, that's your own personal intelligence that you're taking with you to the next job. And that's not the same as just walking out the door with source code, right? So I don't know. I can't really comment too much about ZeniMax. I don't know the details.
Well, I know that they are saying that Carmack walked with files that he shouldn't have. Whether that is actually the case or not, we don't know.
Allegedly.
That's what they're alleging. Whether it's the case or not, we don't know till the end of the court case.
We don't know. We don't know anything. So.
And we may never know. I mean, this may all get sold and. Obviously they're taking it to trial, and they want it to be taken to trial. But at the end of the day, once those lawyers and those suits get in a room together, there's probably going to be some sort of settlement. It'll be all hush hush, and then everybody will get their price and move on.
So where are you today, Don? Seeing as you're spinning around on camera there.
Well, I'm out having a smoke. I am at Sky Zone, so it is a big trampoline park. We're having my daughter's 9th birthday, and I couldn't take it. I couldn't, not take the opportunity to come in and jump on the cast for just a second and say hello to all the fans. It's in my nature, So, but yeah, guys, I've been watching as much as I could. Great cast today.
No, thanks a
cheers,
lot.
Don. It's
And thanks very much to Giuseppe for joining us here. I think he's made it very interesting. People are very excited about Redout, so it's very nice to get him on the cast.
Thanks again for having me here.
Ah, absolute pleasure.
Yeah, you look fantastic, by the way.
Thank you very much.
I see your sunglasses are sponsored by SanDisk as well. Are you,
they
are you getting paid for that?
These show freebies. So.
They said you can have these sunglasses for free, but you have to be on the VRSpies podcast. Is that it?
Yeah, there you go. I never thought about that. Now I guess SanDisk probably should sponsor us.
Yeah, man. Can you store any data on those things?
No, you can't. These are given away for free by the handload at trade shows that I go to.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
And I lose my sunglasses so often. I'm too cheap to pay for a good pair.
Yeah, I thought you were going to tell me you could like snap a leg off and plug it into the USB port or something.
No, then I'd be impressed.
Yeah.
Don, I sent you a little parcel, a little 3D printed parcel.
I heard you talking about that. I can't wait to get it.
And I even put in a couple of small gifts for your kids as well, because I'm such a nice guy.
Oh, thank you, man. Yeah, I keep seeing these ads pop up on Facebook for this micro 3D printer that's like $300, and it's very tempting.
Very tempting.
After seeing how much fun you and Caleb have been having with the 3D printing. So.
Yeah. Great, really good fun, very good fun. Well, I think we're going to wind up now, Don, and we have no more questions in chat, and we'll leave everyone wanting more, as they do every episode.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I know it's very sad to leave you all.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else you want to close on, guys?
Well, just for everyone who's watching or who listens via iTunes or however they do listen in, go check out the Redout page on Steam, releasing on the 2nd of September. It runs on a monitor, it runs on the Vive, runs on Oculus and OS VR.
Can't go wrong. All right then. Fantastic. Thank you so much for jumping in. Don, Giuseppe, thank you once more for joining us today and making the cast so interesting. And thank you, everybody, for watching. It's been absolutely fantastic, and we'll call it there. Good night, everybody.
Ta-ta.
Bye.